What happens when you do the first kubectl request? Where does the request goes? How does it flow? The three key steps are authentication, authorization, and admission. So basically, when you do a kubectl run nginx --image nginx, the request goes to the API server. And the three stages are authentication, authorization, admission. That means it is checking if the user who is making the request is an authentic user. They pass the validation. And whatever request that they have done, they are authorized to do that request. Also, after that, if there are any post admission after the authorization stage that needs to be validated against. In all three scenarios, if the request fails, then the request will completely fail and the request will not be proceeded further. So in this video, we'll go through end-to-end examples of authentication and authorization and see how it works within a Kubernetes cluster, and also discuss some of the key scenarios for Kubernetes CKS certification. Also, this will be valid for CKA certification, a couple of scenarios. My name is Sam Pathak. You're watching Cube Simplify. Let's get started. So as I mentioned, the first step that is there is authentication. So authentication is the first step. When you do kubectl run nginx image --nginx, there is this authentication. Now authentication in Kubernetes is two ways. One is the user authentication, which are externally managed. So these users have to be like LDAP or some external user management system. So external UMS system, which is there, which is not controlled and managed by Kubernetes. And then there is this thing called service accounts. Service accounts are actually managed by Kubernetes. Their whole life cycle is managed by Kubernetes. What happens is within a cluster, there are a lot of services internally that needs to communicate with each other, needs to create Kubernetes resources. So these should be using these service accounts. So their service accounts are very much important. Let's move on. So the request comes in. The first step is the credential check. So this is just the credential, like you have the login page. You do first step is you enter the username and the password to any website that you go, right? Whether it's X platform or LinkedIn or, whatever that is. So you do the credential check first to get admitted. And then you see if you have permissions to do everything. For example, if you don't have X premium, you won't be able to do certain stuff. So those are the authorization stuff. So first is the credential check. So if the credential check fails, it returns obviously an unauthorized user, that it is unauthorized. If it passes, then this attaches some of the user information to the next stage, which is authorization stage, as part of the headers. So it usually passes the username, the UID, all those information. Now authentication can be done using different plugins. So Kubernetes uses client certificates, bearer token, authentication proxy, and the request gets authenticated using the auth plugins. And there are a lot of auth plugins. For example, the X509 client certificates, a static token file, bootstrap token, service account token, OpenID Connect token, authenticating proxy. There are a lot of these authentication plugins which are there that you can see on the Kubernetes documentation. Now what happens? Let's try to take another scenario over here. So this is your kubeconfig file. Obviously, when you do kubectl get nodes, whatever the command is, the request first is authenticated using whatever is mentioned in this particular file. If you have not set kubeconfig variable, or it is not present in the home directory wherever the default location is as part of the config, then the request does not proceed because it doesn't know like where to get the credential check done. So what happens here is there are a lot of things in the kubeconfig file. Let's try to understand that. So kubeconfig file usually have the certificate, the client key, and the certificate stuff that gets created as part of the Kubernetes context. So in Kubernetes, there is a kubeconfig file. In kubeconfig file, there are user information and context information. Now this is a simple Kubernetes cluster. Let's see the kubeconfig file. And if you see in the kubeconfig file, there are certain things which are present. One is clusters. So in clusters, there will be different clusters defined. So here, one is the cluster with the server address, which is the API server address. And then there is the client authority data. So client authority data is one, and then there are different contexts. So first, we see that there is a Kubernetes admin context, and that admin context is having, for that particular user, Kubernetes admin, there is a client certificate data and client key data. These are the credentials using which this particular user will be authenticated, and that is why we are able to create, run, delete, whatever stuff is required, because this particular user is having all the admin permission. Now, in Kubernetes, we can actually create a user, and let's see how we can create that user. So in this particular example, we are using the client certificates. The first step is to use OpenSSL to generate the user.key. So if you see, there is a user.key that gets created. The next step is to create the certificate signing request, which is the CSR. Here what we are saying is OpenSSL request new key, request new, where we are passing that user key, and what we want is user.csr, and in the subject we give the username and the group name. For the username, we have just given the username, and organization is the group name. If we do ls, we'll be able to see the user CSR as well. Now what we'll do is we'll sign it. So we are using again OpenSSL, and we are using X509 request. We are passing in the user. We are passing in as a certificate authority for signing as the etc Kubernetes PKI CA cert and its own key. And then we do the out as user cert. And this is valid for 365 days. So this becomes the user.cert. So we have all these things. Now the next critical step is to add the user credentials to kubeconfig file. So first is kubectl config set credentials username, and we give the user cert and user key. So this step added the user credentials to kubeconfig file. The next step is for creating the context. So here what we'll do is we'll create the context and give the cluster name as Kubernetes, because cluster name is Kubernetes. So kubectl config set context username context, this one, and cluster as Kubernetes with the namespace default user as username that we provided by creating the certificates and all that stuff. Now let's switch to the new context. Now we are in the new context, and if we do kubectl get pods, we will see forbidden. That is fine, because right now it doesn't have the permissions. Right now it is just being authenticated. So the authentication stage is passed. It failed at the authorization. How we know? We can also check the authentication via the curl command. So we can do kubectl config view, unify JSON path, and we can get the IP. So we are able to get the kube API server address. Now we can use this API server, and we can use another curl request, which is using the CA cert, the Kubernetes CA cert, and the cert of the user and the key of the user. So we pass the certificate authority cert and the certificate of the user and the key of the user, and then try to hit the pod. So we see that it is authenticated, but it is forbidden because it doesn't have the permission to list the resources inside the default namespace for the API group and whatever that is. So this is how authentication is now clear, and we have added. Now let's also view the kubeconfig file. And here we'll be able to see there is a new user which has a client certificate and the client key in the location, which is on this particular system. So client certificate and client key is there. We have a new context for the cluster Kubernetes. It goes directly to the namespace default with the username, and the context will be named as username context. So if we do kubectl config get context, we'll be able to see the username context, which is the current one because that is a star one. And this is the admin one. So now let's go back to the admin one and add certain permissions to this. Now the next step is the authorization. Now the main authorization is that you have to focus on is RBAC, which is role-based access control. What that means is, let's say you have written kubectl get nodes. So you want to get the nodes. So this means verb. This means the verb. So what happens is, in Kubernetes, there is a concept of role binding, cluster role, and CRB, cluster role binding. So what happens is these are namespace scoped and these are cluster wide. Usually for security reasons, try to create role and the role binding rather than the cluster role and the cluster role binding. So the combinations that can be used are role. If you create a role, you need a role binding. If you create a cluster role, you can create a cluster. You need a cluster role binding, but you can also have a cluster role and a role binding. So that combination also works. So first is you create a user or a service account. Once the user or service account is created, you will create a role. In the role, what you define is what the user can do, what this particular user can do within the cluster. And then role binding or cluster role binding means linking of this role with the service account or the user with the service account. Let's do that. You can create that using kubectl create command or the YAML manifest. In this particular case, we are just using kubectl create role name and the verb. Now verb here means the same thing that I showed you. This is the get, list, create, watch. All these are the verbs and on which resource on the pods in the namespace default. So this is the role that gets created. What you can do is kubectl get role pod reader -o YAML. You will be able to see this is how it defines. You can define API groups, you can define resources, you can define the verbs on that. So let's create a role binding now because we already have a user. So the role binding would be kubectl create role binding pod reader binding. The role is pod reader that we created above. The user is username and the namespace is default. So we have created this role. Now let's switch back the context. Kubectl config get contexts and let's use the username context. Now if we do kubectl get pods, the request is passed and we don't see any authorization error because we created a role and role binding for this particular user. We can also do the curl request using the API server that we did. We can see the items are empty. So the request passed, it is giving a JSON file. Now what we try to do is, we try to create a pod. Creating a pod will result in error. So let's do that. So it is forbidden. Creating a pod is forbidden. So what we did is, we tried to create a pod over here. Creating a pod is not permitted because we haven't given that permission, as simple as that. So this is how you restrict the access in the Kubernetes ecosystem using the role-based access control. Now we have done one example of a user. Now let's do another example of a service account. Let's create a namespace demo. kubectl create namespace demo. In that namespace, let's create a service account called SAM. So we have to name the service account as SAM, which can only list, watch, delete, and get secrets, pods, and deployments. So we need to create a service account SAM. We need to create a cluster role, and the cluster role should be named as CR that can only list, watch, delete, get, secrets, pods, and deployment. And then we need to do the role binding for that. And then we'll do some of the checks. So let's first do that. So kubectl create service account SAM in the namespace demo. We already have created the namespace, so the service account got created. This is the cluster role. So API version, RBAC, authorization gates, IOB1, cluster role, name CR. What it should do is, for the resources, secrets, pods, deployments, get the verbs, get, list, watch, and delete. And now the important step is role binding. So we create a role binding with the name super and the namespace in the namespace demo. And here in the subject, what we do is we give a kind service account name SAM and the role reference. So SAM service account and the role reference as cluster role. So let's create a deployment, regular deployment of Nginx, kubectl create deployment Nginx -image Nginx in the namespace demo. And now let's try to delete that. In order to authenticate or in order to check in your exam, there is a command called kubectl auth CANI that you can use to verify what a particular action can be performed by a particular user. That is very helpful within your exam. Before we do that, there is one small change that we need to do is we need to specify that for the deployments, the API groups were apps. So for the cluster role that we created, I have edited that and made it pods and secrets with the API group as empty and for the deployments as API group apps. Now let's try to run this command kubectl auth CANI delete deployment nginx -- as system service account demo SAM, means system service account in the namespace demo and the service account name. And it says, yes, I am able to delete that. And it should be like, we should be able to delete that. Can I create it? So can I create it? It should say no. So I cannot create the deployment, which is what we needed. Now let's say, so this is how the patching is done. In your exam, you might be asked to patch some of the existing roles. So let's say you need to create a new role, or you need to limit the service account SAM. So you need to limit the service account SAM to only view the secrets and not do anything else. So you create another role called secret viewer. So this is a secret viewer role and can only list and get the secrets. Create a role binding associated to that. So create a role binding for the SAM in the demo namespace with the secret viewer. And we need to delete the other role binding. So we just kubectl delete the role binding. So get RB, get role binding and delete the super one. And now if we try to get the secret, yes. If we try to delete deployment, no. If we try to list pods, no. So we have limited the behavior of the particular service account to view only secrets. So that's how you'll be able to kind of do that. And in the end, it can also be asked that if you want to kind of create a pod with a service account, you can do that. So kubectl get pods -n demo. You'll be able to see that you have created this particular pod with the service account name as SAM. So this will ensure that the pod is running with SAM service account attached to it. So those are some of the key scenarios that you should be able to understand. So in this particular video, we went through end-to-end explanation of what authentication means, what authorization means, how you can authenticate a user and create a properly new user with certificate signing request and all that stuff, and add that to kubeconfig file and then create it. And then authorization, where you understood about RBAC, role-based access control, how you can create a role binding to a user, then create a service account, create a role binding, create a cluster role binding, and then attach some of this, and also edit a particular cluster role, delete a cluster role, and do all these things. So I hope this video gave you a gist of what everything means with respect to Kubernetes RBAC, Kubernetes Authentication Authorization. And if you like the video, then do share it in your network and give a thumbs up, and also comment that if you are able to understand completely the RBAC concept and do all the demos that I showed in this particular video, so that this helps you in cracking your CKA or CKS certification. Actually, it's there in both. For CKS, it's more from the security standpoint that you limit some of the resources or some of the service account to do only limited set of capabilities within the Kubernetes cluster. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.